The article I chose for the article critique is called Teacher Effectiveness in the Every Student Succeeds Act by Alex Berg-Jacobson. This article is a guide for states to use when determining how they would define teacher effectiveness. In 2015, the Excellent Educators for All initiative inspired states to develop plans to identify gaps in student access to effective teachers and come up with strategies for addressing these gaps. The work that was done as part of this process sparked a conversation about the challenges schools face recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers in their highest needs schools. Shortly after, the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, was passed into law. ESSA brought with it a unique opportunity for states to take a closer look at their vision for educator effectiveness, since they were now allowed to develop their own teacher evaluation systems. Unlike No Child Left Behind, ESSA requires that states ensure that low-income and minority students are not served at disproportionate rates by ineffective teachers. However, the law does not provide a definition for what an ineffective teacher looks like, so states were tasked with creating their own definition. This article provides 3 questions to guide state leaders in creating a meaningful definition for their state. Question 1 asks states to determine whether or not they should define ineffective teachers using evaluation data, existing highly qualified teacher data, locally determined measures, or should they take another approach. When considering the use of each approach, the author analyzes the strengths and weaknesses associated with that approach. One of the approaches considers the use of evaluative data to define an ineffective teacher. This approach is most representative of a teacher's effectiveness. This is due to the fact that evaluations are typically aligned with the standards that are important in any state. However, relying solely on this approach may not be useful due to the fact that in some instances, states struggle with collecting evaluation data from districts, as well as the fact that there is a lack of confidence in the evaluation system. Another possible approach is to use the state's predetermined definition of a highly qualified teacher. Under this approach, teachers not meeting this definition would be considered ineffective. This approach would require minimal work to implement. However, under ESSA, states are encouraged to create their own definition since previous highly qualified teacher requirements may be outdated since our understanding of teaching and learning has evolved over the past decade. The next questions that the article poses ask states to consider the preponderance of evidence when defining ineffective teachers. In other words, should states consider all evidence, including multiple measures over time, in order to create a more accurate picture of the effectiveness of the teacher? This could include requiring a teacher to consistently fail to meet certain criteria over a period of a few years before being considered ineffective. The author believes that ultimately using a preponderance of evidence helps establish if a teacher is ineffective. Finally, the author asks states to consider whether or not they should define ineffective teachers as those who have not reached the bar of effective. For the purpose of equitable access and report planning, setting a cut score would allow states to more accurately define teacher effectiveness. This type of scale would be focused more on equitable access rather than on accountability. This article addresses the changes to teacher evaluation under ESSA and would be a great resource for states to use when developing their evaluation system. The author clearly states the factors he thinks are necessary for the states to consider and gives a rationale for each one. He even goes as far as stating the particular strengths and weaknesses of each. I recommend this article for anyone who would like to learn more about the changes made to the evaluation system under the Every Student Succeeds Act.